Another option for your fonts is to actually be able to manipulate them for certain design parameters. It is limited when we drag a font down into the scene tree and come into the font editor with what we can do with it as far as manipulating it. So we're going to come up into one of our fonts here and we're just going to double click on it. If the font is active in a scene like we have it here, it's going to warn you. So just hit yes or no, whichever you need it. So we're just going to hit yes, and it takes us into the font texture editor. This looks a little bit different. It's a new interface kind of, but we still have our font settings over here. Now, if we needed to change the look of this font, we could. So for instance, if I needed to create a blurred font, I can come in here and drag the blur down into this little box, and then we could add a blur level, and you can see what it's actually doing. It's giving you the texture setting, here's the geometry setting, and the path setting. So that's what it looks like when you're manipulating this. So let's say I don't want the blur so much. I'll back that blur off a little bit, blur it a little bit on the texture, but we also want to add some vertex color. So I'm going to come down here and click on the vertex color, and now you can come into the little editor here and start changing the color of each corner or vertex as well. There's 4 corners that you can change, and then anytime you're dealing with colors, you can simply drag and drop colors to a different side and or option there. So you can see as we manipulate this color that it's changing the color of the font here and the texture down here. So we also have other options here like contour, extrude, italic, and outline. If we want to get rid of these, we can just drag these down to the trash can below. So if we wanted to throw an extrude on here, we could drop an extrusion down here. And you can see it a little bit here how it is reacting. So you have your different bevel and extrusion types down here. You have your extrusion depth that you can increase as well. So if you wanted to save that font with the extrusion attached to it, you certainly could. And or let's add one more, so we'll have an italicized 3D font. I want to save that font, so I'm just going to go ahead and save it as Arial Black 2. We'll hit OK, and then we can just close this little window there, and it takes us back into our interface. Now we have that Arial Black 2 that we just saved, and when I drag this down into the scene, you can see that it looks a little bit different because it's italicized, and it also has an extrusion on it. But the extrusion is hard to see because we don't have any material on it, so we need some shading on that, and that will allow us to see it. So if we come in here and just drop a material on it, you can see that it is now extruded. This font is then saved up here or as long as you need it. So if you do need to reuse it in any other scene, you can always just drag it down again and reuse it in whatever scene you need.